All right. So essentially, I want to talk about the scanner and which one you should use depending on your strategy. I tried to make it so it'll fit with scalpers, it'll fit with option traders, and it'll fit with like swing traders. Main thing, I guess we can talk about the pre-market one first, and then we'll move on to the intraday set.
Solo.
So the pre-market is pretty simple. Literally anything that's gapping up and gapping down. There's another one that's called pre-market mover. These are all like pretty basic setups. The only thing that I really added onto these scans are the ATR, which I think is really important, so you guys know where the stock can go instead of having to guess
KNDI.
where your stop loss should be, or having a standardized stop loss. You can take a look at the gappers and kind of look at the ATR and be like, hey, do I really want to take this trade if it's only going to move 30 cents? Am I able to capitalize at least 60 or 80% of the ATR? And that way you can make better decisions on getting in and out of a ticker. The next thing is obviously float. Float's very important. Trade ideas. Float isn't always the best,
FOMX.
but it's not the worst either. I mean, I've seen, it could be worse. You could not know the float, right? Or they could have just gave you the outstanding share. So it's not too bad, but it's not really up to date. I mean, like every minute kind of thing. The short float's pretty good. I like the short float for one thing. It tells me, if this is already heavily shorted, if there's going to be a short squeeze, if a short squeeze already happened, and then I have another column there for the short percentage growth, right? So if the short interest grew or if it decreased over the last couple of days. Next is obviously stock twits are relevant. So I want to see, is this something that people are talking about? This morning, if you take a look at it, some of them are like 800%, 5,000%, 7,000%. And then ears came out with news and it was only like 74%. And that was like, okay, that means someone didn't, the board wasn't active on that. And that might be an easier way to get into a trade. Less people, less eyes on it. And at that time, I think it was like at 9:10 when I was looking at it. Actually, you know what? On the stream, you can rewind it back to 9:10, and you can take a look at how fast ears started moving once you see the stock to its relevance moving up. The other thing would be the earnings date. I really like to know when the earning date is and how far away I have. Like if I want to swing a position, or before I even look at the news, I can just look at the scanner and be like, oh, okay, they had earnings today. Or be like, okay, they had earnings yesterday. Or earnings is coming up. And that'll help me, avoid nasty mistakes of swinging onto a position onto the quarterly revenue. That one's important. I just want to see if they're profitable. So that's an easy, quick way of seeing how they're doing quarter to quarter. The other one is EPS per share. So it's $1 per share if they're actually growing or decreasing. That's also another measure. You'll notice one thing. The EPS per share growth on stocks that are gapping down are a lot higher than the stocks that are gapping up. And that goes with why we short major low floats, because majority of the ones that actually do gap up aren't actually worth it, and they do come falling back down within a week. Next one is obviously held by insiders. I want to see how many insiders have it, right? So this morning we had I think the biggest one was what's it, YGYI. That thing had like 70% insider ownership. So as soon as I saw that insider, I'm like, okay, they're holding on to this thing. It's not gonna really just fall flat on its face when 70% of the outstanding shares is being held by insiders. The next one is really important to me: institutional ownership. I want to see, is institutions in this ticker, are they actually going to be holding on to it? And then I want to look at the chart and kind of try and figure out Is this an area that they're gonna scale some size off the trade, or is this news good enough for them to add on to the trade? Now, the institutional ownership is really good on the gap down one. So, I like to play a lot of the gap down trades. And one thing I noticed with the high institutional um, trades, you'll notice that it's more of a trend trade. It'll gap down and it's either going to find a direction and move back up, or it's going to gap down and then continuously move down for the next couple of days. And looking at that institutional ownership really does help me make that decision. Now, we have cash. Cash is king. So I want to see, is this a company that actually has enough cash to, make that it makes sense, or is this just like one of those pump and dump schemes? And obviously, cash is just self-explanatory. Cash to depth. I want to see, that these guys don't have a stupid amount of depth. It is a big issue, especially for companies that are smaller. And if I'm going to get into a position, I don't want to get into a position that I think is so bullish, but people have already priced it. Income to depth, that field usually doesn't work unless it's like a large cap. So, again, the same reasons. I just want to see how strong they are fundamentally. Now, EV to market cap, that is a whole entire topic on its own, but that's a really good indication on what the valuation is. And it's like a quick glance. I just have to look at it and just get an idea of what's, is this reasonably priced or is it like stupid? And I think that covers the gap ups. As soon as 9:30 hits, we go to the live intraday setup. The intraday setup is set up with the option flow scan. So let's go over the option flow first. The United Traders option flow scan. Now, I wanted this to be stuff that we could actually trade, right? So you'll notice that there's some, a lot of people have these scanners for options, and they'll find that, oh my god, they have like 100,000 contracts today, but then you look at the average volume on those contracts and it's like less than 1,000. So that's useless information for us, especially if we were trying to get in with size and for the size of the group, right? So I kind of have it organized by option volume, and in brackets it says contracts. That is the average contracts that is being traded. Option volume today, which is on the left of that column, that one is where it tells you the option volume obviously today, and you can kind of get an idea of how strong it is and kind of figure out if you want to take the trade. Obviously the ones on the top, like over 2,000 like average volume is something that I'm looking at. So having something with like 40-50,000 is really good. You can see right now it's Snap and Activision right on the top. You can also see the put to call ratio, and that's really important. You want to know, are people stupidly bullish or are people stupidly bearish, or is it even? Snap was even, ATVI pretty even, Vail on the other hand, not so even. RVol, everyone knows what RVol is. The next field is something that I haven't seen a lot of people use, but they'll probably copy us eventually. And it's the volatility per dollar. So I think it's a 5-minute period or a 15, so it's one of the two. In a 5 or 15-minute period, that column tells you how much the stock's going to move. So when you're making these option plays and you're like, oh my god, Activision is going to go down quick, and you're targeting, so ATVI, let's take a look at their, ATVI has a, where is it? ATR for about $2 a share. Okay, so right then and there you can probably get about $2 a share on it. And when you look back onto the option flow scan, you can see that every 5 or 15 minutes, I'm not sure which one, it moves like 24 cents. That way you can actually be like, okay, you know what, if I take the wrong trade, I have to give it at least 30-40 cents. And if it goes against me 30-40 cents, then I know that it's probably not going to work out and I can stop out of my trade. And also you can put your reasonable
AZRE.
stops. You know where the stock's going to move. You know how much it could move in a given period of time. So you know which ones you can, leave your desk and have a coffee, and the ones that you actually have to like actively watch over. All right. So the second scan is the United Traders option watch. So that one is quick, fast, like orders that are going through, and these could be one orders, these could be multiple orders, but they happen relatively at the same time. So those are like different spikes that could happen. I'm not sure what happened on MAT, but let's take a look. Alright, yeah, MAT, we got a nice little option volume there. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as the other scanner. This one is just organized by time, so the the one on the top is the most recent. But it still has the same components of the flow scan. So you can still see what the average volume is, and it's in the gray and black theme, and then you can see what that volume is today. So today you can see right off the bat it's like 650% increase on the average volume. That could mean something is up, and we already know what it is. So that's one scanner you could use. Now, it's not just for option two. Like, I like using these scans when I trade large caps because, option flow and trading large caps, they go hand in hand, right? And it's easy for us to make a judgment on where a stock could go by just looking at the, volatility, per. And I'm going to go over the market scan now because the market scan really does go hand in hand with the option flow scan. And one thing I like about the market scan is there's something called wiggle. That wiggle is pretty much something that algorithmic traders use, and it pretty much explains your risk profile. So on solo, you could probably, okay, solo is a horrible example, but let's see. Essentially, you want to try and find something with a decent risk and a good ATR.
PTX.
You know what? ATVI is pretty easy. ATVI, their ATR is 1.9, and then the wiggle room is about 1.7, 1.47. So let's say 1.5. So you get an idea of where you should put your stops, and you get to get an idea of where your daily range is. That one's organized by relative volume, and that's important because for day traders we need to have someone buying it on top of us for the stock to go up. We need someone to sell it for the stock to go down. And if there's not enough volume coming in and out, then it's pointless. We can just trade SPY then. What's the point of trading tickers if we're not looking for the extreme moves, the ones with extreme volume? It's pretty much that one. Now the fader scan is my favorite. This is something that Ripster gave to me, and again, I can't go into the details on how these indicators are made to keep a competitive advantage. But if you ever take a look at the fader scan, you'll see a lot of tickers that are just gapping down. You can actually see by the position on range, the last column there, POS, R, and G. That pretty much tells you on a chart where it's at intraday. And you can see it's just all red. So they're all gapping down, and you can probably go through it and you'll find that there's some trades that it just kept going down. A good one, look at Dish, that algo takedown scan. It came up at 29.13, and the last one came out 28.87. So that's a really good way of trying to get those good short scalps in. Then we have third day faders, things that are fading after 2 or 3 days of being up. We have second day faders, 1 day faders, all in that same United Traders fader scan. All right. Any questions so far? No questions? All right. So I got a question if I could add this block trade scanner. I could do a block trade scanner. Yeah, I could put that on the side, I guess. I'll try and work on that. I was thinking instead of a block trade scanner that I was just gonna put, you know where on the side to the left, there's like a little bit of room. I was just gonna put um, like a market watch kind of thing, so you guys can see which sectors are moving up, which ones are moving down. Um, but then you guys are gonna have to memorize the actual, tickers for all the sectors. And I can put SPY, TVIX, all the ones we look at, like TLT for looking at the yields. I can have that set up too. So let me see if I can do the block scan. The only thing is there's not a lot of space. I can probably fit it in if I, make the option watch smaller. For now, we decided to make the option watch larger just so, some of the option traders can get a sense of how to use it. Um, and see if it's actually, worthwhile watching it.
YouTube chat. Somebody has a question.
Okay, so the wiggle is pretty much the it's like a formula that they use to see what their max risk tolerance is, right? So you want a position size using the wiggle. You want to be like, hey, you know what? Like it could go, it's the stock is so volatile that it can go, um, within a day, it can go like $5 against me or something like that. That's using a different calculation. Now, um, we had something called a wiggle. I don't know if this is the same one. Trade Ideas doesn't give me any insight on how they make the wiggle indicator, but we had one. Now, the one that we used at institutional level, we pretty much were looking at the volatility
HAVT.
on a 15 to 30 minute basis, and then we kind of used ATR and kind of just made a formula that kind of told us that in a day range it could go up or down $4 a share, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure how Trade Ideas does it. They don't give too much insight on it, but again, that's how I used it, and I'm assuming it's a similar format over here too. I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be back.
GNMK.
All right, so let's go on to the United Traders Extra one. Extras is really good. You can see which trades are getting halted or coming off of a halt. You can see which ones are hitting all-time lows or all-time highs. You can see which ones are, gapping up after ER. There's some that are gapping down after ER. So you can make your own assessment on the plays, and you can actually know, hey, you know what, this is going up because it probably had a good ER. Read up on the ER. You like the ER, you can take the long with it, right? Now, the volume scan. This is something that if you're a bullish trader, you should be looking at the volume scan. And if you're looking for, you remember,
PTX.
there's always a strategy, right? You can either, someone type it down on the chat. You can, you know, buy on the break of resistance, right? When it goes up, when it breaks over resistance, or you can buy at support, right? At the support level. You can short when it hits a resistance and rejects it, or you can short when it breaks a support level, right? no matter what strategy you're doing, you're gonna you'll notice that it's one of the four things that you're gonna be doing. So the volume scan's looking for things that are just breaking out. To the moon indicator, that's my personal indicator. That's one that I heavily use if I'm trading like low flow tickers. Now, it's more, so one thing about scanners is you have your parameters too wide, you get a shit ton of tickers. You have it too low, you're gonna miss out on a few opportunities. So I rather have the option of having too much scans on there, too many alerts, and just going through the ticker, because that's my fucking job. I have to do it anyways. So I don't mind going through all of those tickers. I can find a really good setup by just looking at them. And most of the time after pre-market, this is where I get all my trade ideas, right? So mine's is a bit wide, and it'll pretty much track the volume, and it goes with the flow too. Again, that setting can't give it to you guys. Now we have the $1 to $10 runner. We have runners, and we have another one that's like extreme volume. They're all built into the volume scan, so it's different scans that's just pretty much in one. So you'll notice that there's a few of them that are like extreme volume. There's ones that are just running. Running is like obviously not so great. It's like, okay, it's running on decent volume. Then there's the extreme one where it's like, okay, there is some huge volume coming in. And then break free is pretty much that tickers that are, I think, from $5 to $40, and it's just starting to break out. Those are kind of the area that I like trading. I like trading tickers under like $70. Usually that's like a good area for me. And I guess that pretty much sums it up. You really have to use the scans for you in order to like understand how to use it and track it. Like, there's no, um, you can't really lose anything by just watching the scans and finding something that looks like a good setup and then tracking it. What if it doesn't turn up into a good setup? Like you want to do your own research onto your own scans, right? Again, these scans are something that I've used for so long that it's easy for me to judge. It's easy for me to like look at the scan and be like, okay, I can make a decision. But you got to build that up too, right? It's like it's another thing that you want to learn. So Ocean Grove, you have a question about the ATR column. ATR is pretty much on the market scan, United Traders market scan on the right side. You'll see that it says average true, AVG, and then true. It's like right after short float. And the resistance plays. So these are, okay, so again, these are multiple strategies in one window. Bids and breakouts is when it's getting close to a resistance area and bids are starting to come in. Those are the two big parameters on that one. And again, you can see that these are plays that I'm looking for resistance breaks or a short at resistance. So you have two plays there. You can either be like, okay, I'm going to look at this and I'm like, okay, this could move up, or it could just break down over here and I can take the short on it. And essentially, you could see that. You can see by looking at the position range, right? You can see that a majority of them are on the green side, so that looks good. You can see, even on the volume scan, a majority is on the green side, minus Loco and Den. That's the two that isn't on the green side. But those are break-free scans, so that's a totally different scan from the ones that we were going for on the volume scan. Now, realistically, you want to be looking at the extreme volume ones. That's where I make the most money. It's easier to trade. Like, people are emotional, and the one thing about emotional people is they're just too A, greedy, and B, they're just too like trigger happy, right? So, for me, when I look at the scan and I see something that could be a good play, I'm just trying to get in before the masses get in. If I see good volume and it's continuously moving up, the tape's just like speeding up. I want to see that that's going to help the trend move up. I want to see that, hey, maybe I can get in. It's going to come up on other people's scan and I'm just going to continuously break out. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, bounce with me scan is pretty good. That's Joseph's scan. I really like that one. If you're looking for bounce plays, that's a really good scan. It's telling you pretty much it went down and it's about to bounce back up. So I like that scan. VWAP,
Locals.
that's just normal. When a stock goes over VWAP, it's kind of bullish. What else? I forgot the other scans on it. Oh, candlestick buys. So, when you see a 15 to like 60-minute candlestick forming, that candlestick buy strategy is pretty much going to tell you, hey, you know what, this is looking a bit more bullish. So,
Pairing.
something to keep an eye on. Um, what else? So, the support plays is the complete opposite of the resistance plays. These ones I'm looking for large asks and it's starting to break down, breaking under support levels. And again, there's two strategies on this. You can either buy it because it's near support, or you can short it because it's about to break support, right? So these two scans, the resistance plays and support plays, they're really versatile. They're good for traders that are able to hold like Mari. Mari can hold for like hours on a trade. Something I'm not good at. So, for her, that's something that she's probably going to want to keep an eye on. You know what? I might actually increase the price because I think I set a limit of 70 or 80 bucks on it. Could be 100. I'll increase it to like 150 or something like that. Just so we have like a wider. Now the turbo breakup and breakdown, that's like trade idea scan that I really like. When things are starting to move, and I can't find any trade, the turbo breakup and breakdown scan is just so versatile. It's so fast. You can see when tickers are moving and you can see how fast they're starting to move. And that's a really good indication. Yeah, like you can see a good, volume spike. You can see TNDM came up with 1,000% 1 minute volume spike. So, things like that. I'm not actually looking at TNDM, but, it just popped up. What else? That's pretty much everything, I guess. I kind of messed up the one scan. The bounce with me scan is supposed to be on the support plays, and the drop it low is supposed to be on the resistance plays. I just noticed that. So yeah, those two are supposed to be on two different scans. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. No problem. You guys have any questions?
Yeah, why is the VIX um green with the market right now? Like that's really weird.
No questions regarding this.
My apologies.
It's okay. VIX is pretty low. That's probably why. I mean, I'm still long on TVIX. Let's see what happens.
No, I am too, TJ. I'm long on TVIX, so I'm just very surprised that TVIX is up in the market.